What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm Steve, and if it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. And if you're a returning subscriber, as always, welcome back. Guys, I'm going to jump into something today, and it was a little surprising when I heard about this. One of my subscribers had brought up the idea of me talking about the situation with Eddie George and Tennessee State. And the more I dig into the story, man, I really wanted to do a video about it. And I think this is a little different than the other two stories with Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman University and Deion Sanders with the Jackson State fiasco, but they still have some similarities, and I'm going to get into it today. Guys, supposedly Tennessee State University, head coach Eddie George, I think it's his second year of him being the head coach. He said it on an interview when he spoke about a lot of issues. I guess they brought up issues about HBCU'S. And he spoke a little bit about the issues in part, and he dropped something that was a bit of a bombshell. But before I get in there, I want to say something real quick. I'm going to analyze all three coaches. Now, you got Deion Sanders, right? He the first one that came out and said something bad about HBCU'S. He set the world on fire. People got upset and this and that. A lot of the things we say, guys, as public figures, like these guys are professional athletes, turn head coaches, or in Ed Reed's case, he's trying to become a head coach. A lot of their attitude and their character comes out when they speak, and I think it has a lot to do with how we judge them as people. And I mean, it is what it is. Take Deion for example. Deion Sanders, flamboyant, cocky. Some people take him as arrogant. Then you got Ed Reed. He's a passionate individual. From everybody that knows him and stories we heard about him on the gridiron, the man is passionate, playing through injuries, everything. Sometimes he can be a little brash. We've seen that with the Instagram blow up. And now we have Eddie George. And the reason why I said George, you heard me. The reason why I said George, Eddie George is, in my opinion, he's different than these guys in his character makeup. He comes off as very chill. He's very well liked in the community. He's very well liked around the league, from people that dealt with him. And he's very respected. And I think a lot of that has to do with his character. Another thing about Eddie George is he's very business minded. I don't know what his major was, but you can see the intelligence, and when he speaks, that he has a lot of good schooling. He paid attention to a lot of things that were taught to him in life. So I got to give him respect. And all three of these guys have their own distinct personalities, but they all are respected too as well. I wanted to say that. But this is what Eddie George said. Eddie George said that the state of Tennessee and Tennessee State University are entrenched in a battle right now over $250 million that the state of Tennessee owes Tennessee State University for land grants. Now, when I heard that, I was floored, because $250, yeah, it's a lot of money, and states do have that money to pay that out. But what blew me over the top was this has been owed to the university for 50 years, guys. 50 years, Tennessee State has been trying to get this money from the state of Tennessee. That is a goddamn shame. And I'm being honest with you. That's a shame. There's been no type of, in 50 years, think about it, in 50 years, multiple governors, multiple current events in Tennessee State history, states moving forward, the income is increasing. You know what I'm saying? And you can't pay this university this money supposedly that's owed to them. If this money was owed to the University of Tennessee, do you think they would have got that money? Think about it. Hell yeah, they would have got that money. But this is another thing. I think that the right people ain't opening their mouths. And I think when Eddie George brought this situation to light, I got to give him respect for it. First of all is this. He said with that money, once he said that, it was owed over 5 decades, and it's $250 million. He said with that money, it would really help the university out with things like, other than athletics, maintenance. They could build better buildings. You know, they can go to infrastructure other than athletics. And I give him credit. He could have said, oh, we could have a good stadium. Or he could have just been thinking about him. But I mean, with the character that he has, and kudos to him for even bringing this up. First thing out of his mouth when he was speaking about it, he was like, and this goes beyond athletics. So he wanted to, you know, disclude that. You know, that money in itself can help the university as a whole. It can bring in a lot of other, you know, better staff. The buildings would be built up, like I was saying, and a lot of people, it would be have a sense of pride. A lot of people would want to go there. And I don't understand this whole situation of you could be giving them people $50 million a year, an extra $50 million a year or something like that. And it's just beyond me that for 50 years, nothing has been done about this. And that leads me to think about that. Like, before I even say that, supposedly the governor of Tennessee is named Bill Lee, right? They said Bill Lee was asked about the TSU situation at a press conference by somebody in the media. Like, hey, you gonna give these guys, start paying these people some of this money? Or are you gonna allocate some of the funds that you got in your multi-million-dollar rainy day fund? You know, start giving them some of the money that you owe them? His response, supposedly, and I quote, was, oh, we're working with the university. If that was not the lamest response and the most typical, I don't want to answer your question response, there is. You just heard it. Now, with all that being said and done, I'm going to give a little bit of my perspective on this whole situation. And maybe some of y'all will feel me on this. And if you do feel me on this, man, I mean, you guys have been liking my opinion on a lot of videos, man, and y'all been giving me a lot of thumbs up, helping that video spread. Give me a thumbs up on this, man. Just out of respect, help the channel grow, man. I appreciate each and every one of you guys watching. There are 4 or 5 things I want to talk about in this whole situation at HBCUs, because I think some of you guys out here have the idea that because I went to an HBCU and my experiences wasn't this and that, HBCUs are bad, or all HBCUs are bad. I can't answer that question. I have not been to all HBCUs. And they do serve a purpose to students, whether you're black or whatever, that go to the school. It serves a purpose and you get something out of it. So let's keep that real and let's keep that honest up front. Let me just state that. The first thing is this. I want to talk about some points. I wrote them down, right? So I got these cards in my hand because I'm old. I can't remember. So deal with it. Listen. The first thing is this. The struggles of HBCUs go far beyond those who run them. So a lot of people blame the presidents and this and that and saying, oh, well, listen, that sometimes, and I wasn't really thinking about it, a lot of times people might be fed up, man. Can't ask for this, you ain't gonna never get it. Sometimes when you got a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of lines of command, everybody got to do their part and had the same drive, the same motivation, and the same goal other than getting a paycheck. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, but when you have a big chain of command, you have to work as a cohesive unit to get an objective done. They teach you that in the military. Some of y'all that was in the military, you know that, some of my subscribers. And with that being said, supposedly governors are the ones that appoint these presidents in these universities, whether it's a HBCU or a regular university, right? So I don't know what the link is or what it is with these HBCUs where, you know, they might feel privileged just to be the president and the guy anointed them, where they don't want to go back and say nothing to the governor. But I think a lot of these governors and a lot of these states with these HBCUs in them need to be under scrutiny. Pressure need to be put on them because governors are the ones that are appointing these people. And if the objective is not being done, somebody got to burn for this. You see what I'm saying? That's the second thing I think about. Third thing is this. It seems like nobody wants to cross the line. Now, if you see something wrong being done, and it's a lot of pressure, don't get it twisted. It's a lot of pressure. A lot of people are just intrigued with just having a title of president of a school or whatever. A lot of people I gave flack to, and I'm wrong for this, But I gave flack to the president of Jackson State in one of my videos where I ranted about Deion Sanders that took off, right? I was just looking at that from a standpoint of me being a black person dealing with how other people of power that are black act sometimes and they get boisterous. Was I wrong for that? Yeah. But at the time I was lit, I was hot, and what I said might not even been the case. But I do think this is the case. A lot of people that get hired by these governors and they're in these positions where they're making a lot of money, they don't want to lose that position. So people can go up the ladder and get to the president, and the president can say or do whatever because he don't want to go back to the guy and be a thorn in his side. Even though he's doing his job, he don't want the guy to say, well, listen, I can get somebody else in there that can do the job. If you can't, basically, I'll get somebody else in there that's not going to bother me like you're bothering me, and somebody that's happy with the position if you're not. Guys, I don't know. I just think that's part of it. Nobody wants to cross the line. Another thing is, I don't think anybody wants to, it would have to be an en masse group. I don't think one person can tackle this alone. So Eddie George bringing this up, I think that's a noble thing, and it awakens, the eyes of a lot of people. Like it awoken my eyes today about HBCU'S, where I'm like, damn, I never really thought about that. You see what I'm saying? So I wrote all these points down, and I think a lot of people don't want to cross the line because they're happy in the position and the money that they're making. That's point number 4, right? Number 3. Point number 4. Sorry, I dropped my card. I think some people don't care. And that goes back to what I say. People get comfortable in their position. They can sit on that position forever. You know what I mean? And this is where I think a lot of people call it corruption. And they don't care. I think a lot of these HBCUs, they're like, okay, we'll throw y'all some crumbs, money-wise every year. We'll raise it by 2-3% your allowance of what you're getting every year. A lot of people look at that as progress because the money's getting pocketed by them. And that brings my last thing in my last point into perspective. I think, honestly, the only way to fix this, guys, with all these schools, a lot of these smaller schools, these HBCUs, and a lot of these community colleges that are under scrutiny, they're not HBCUs. I think they need to have a nationwide mandated audit by an independent group to come into each of these schools and break it down. I guarantee you, if the federal government made a national announcement of that, you'll start seeing money flying all over the place. People will have to liquidate funds. People that took money, they would be seeing that it's going to these different bank accounts. A lot of people will have to start getting rid of that money. And all of a sudden, a lot of stuff would come up to where it was starting to get in order. But then again, a lot of people are dumb and hustle backwards. A lot of these schools will get exposed too. I think that's what needs to happen. But that's just my opinion. Guys, man, leave me a comment, man. Tell me what you think about the situation with Eddie George speaking out. I think it's a good thing, and I like the way he did it. And one more thing before I leave out of here. A lot of times it's not what we say, it's how we say it. Eddie George spoke a certain way with a certain tone, and his message was more receivable. Ed Reed said some things that were really good, but the way he came off, and I'm not laughing, the way he came off, his energy was just hype, you know what I mean? And like a lot of times, when somebody come off with that energy and that energy is hype like that, a lot of times we miss the point because we put our own self into it and our own feelings, and we make offhanded comments about how we really feel. And a lot of people focus on that and not the message. And like I said, all 3 of these guys, Deion Sanders, Eddie George, and Ed Reed, I wish them all the best, man. But I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, man, I'm Stock Market Steve. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.